We got this. We got this. Pop in. Say hi, you guys. It has been a day of struggles and conquers and getting things done and giving myself poop right and left, right? But it is what it is, and we are here right this moment, I hope. Hi, if you've never met me before, I'm Cindy. I explore the inside and the outside. And here on Sunday nights, we have a show we do. It's called Chatters Live. I have an amazing crew here. And I'm grateful for this crew because this crew also enjoys my exploring videos. So I'm sure some of them have seen my video. I know Owen has seen my video because I just realized I was in my video and I was about to reply to Owen's lovely comment, and realize, oh my goodness, I'm supposed to be going live, right? I'm supposed to be going live right now, and I knew I was going live because I had to rush to the store. I had to rush to finish up with the video I uploaded, which I really tried. I got it finally uploaded at I think around 6 o'clock or 6:30. I woke up at 7 o'clock this morning, you guys, and I started rendering the video because the video was pretty much complete by the time I went to bed last night. So all I had to do was render it, which I thought might take an hour or two, depending how big the package was. I wasn't too sure. I thought an hour or two. I started rendering it. Oh my goodness. Trouble after trouble after trouble. And then the package was too big and it was giving me all kinds of warnings. And I'm fixing all these warnings. It's great when you make a mistake and then, YouTube can come on and say, oh, that didn't quite work, or can you refresh your screen? You don't have enough space on your computer for this. And, it is frustrating. Don't like editing. But I know because I love being a YouTuber, right? And I love creating. I do love creating. And I do love putting my own touches on my videos. But when things don't go smoothly, right? It's kind of like playing the Monopoly game when you're kids, right? And then somebody took your hotel and you just take the whole game and go whack. And you fling all the money and all the pieces up in the air, right? In the past few lessons, in the past few years, it's taught me that that doesn't do you any good, that you have to work through your problems. And all through working through my problems, I kept saying to myself, Cindy, right? You're doing a crappy job today. This video didn't quite work out, right? It's not even, didn't work out even half as good as the first one that you put up. And the first one drove you a little bonkers. But it's for different reasons this time than the first video you put up. You had different problems. You knew how to solve those problems in this uploading and in this editing of the video. You did great, right? You made different mistakes this time. But in making those mistakes, when I go to start editing my next video, which I'll probably start editing tomorrow, I'm thinking every 2 or 3 days until these course of explorers, this adventure, this trip that I went on. Hello, Owen. Hello, Kathy. I think every 2 or 3 days I'll upload a video because I took lots of video. I really wanted to share this experience with everybody and kind of make it your explorers too. And if I seem frustrated, it's only because I want to do a good job, right? It's because of that long time support that we've had over the past few years that we've built up those connections, right? And you guys support me in the movement, right? And I'd like to come through for you, right? Like a trooper every single time. Come across as the expert, but genuinely as the expert, right? I don't want to pretend that I'm getting things right when I'm truly not getting things right, when I'm truly fumbling along and I get things accomplished, but realizing that maybe it might have been a kind of a rough kind of sea in doing that. But I did it. If you guys haven't seen my video, I uploaded a video about an hour ago. And it's probably better if you haven't watched it yet because it took a while for processing. I'll know for next time to leave the video unlisted until it finishes processing the high definition. So if you go in and watch the video now, I would think that the color's really nice. The resolution is very nice. I was just so nervous that I was going to mess something else up. I wanted to get something up just in case that high definition didn't work out. But I think it worked out. I haven't got any notifications. Everybody, I'm home. I had the most amazing adventure. I know you guys have seen the last couple of videos that I've put up on my trip. It was an amazing trip. I cut it back one day only because of the budget, right? Not very good at the budgeting, right? Those $10 fridge magnets of those parks that I like to visit. And I'm grateful for those fridge magnets because I was disappointed last year when I went on my trip that there were a couple of parks that I didn't purchase the fridge magnets only because they were too expensive. And this time I just said, when I run out of money, I run out of money, right? Then we'll turn around and we'll go home. Of course, I left enough money for gas. I left enough money for gas, and I was grateful because I actually thought that because of they were short staffed at work and I kind of left them in the bind that they would need me and I would have to go back to work on Monday, which is normally my days off anyway. But I thought like the place might be a big catastrophe, big mess, unorganized. Maybe they fell behind a little bit. That I would get scheduled in right away so I could come and get things all sorted out again. And I'm not disappointed. They did phone me yesterday and asked me to come in when one of the girls didn't show up, but she ended up showing up. But when I called for my schedule today, well, it doesn't look like I'm going back to work until Thursday. So the Saturday, the Sunday today were vacation days. Technically tomorrow I am back to work, but they scheduled my days off just so that they could extend my vacation for me, which was very, very, very kind of them because I could have, right, worked a day and then they could have given me 2 days off, or I could have worked 2 days and then they could have given me days off, or, right, they could have given me the weekend off, right? So they didn't give me the weekend off. I didn't expect they would, but an appreciation for how they fix the schedule for me so that I do really, truly feel like I have a vacation. I am going to bust my butt next weekend and bring them in all kinds of moolah, right? Right? Shine, catch up, make sure that everything is tidy. And I have a great team that I work with, and I'm sure that they were on top of it. Now, I'm not talking about work tonight, only because I am still on vacation, right? Little bit of a rat woman today, but like I said, I was at the video. And while I was working at the video, and I know being a YouTuber, right? I have been coming live for, right, since COVID. We've been doing quite a few of the lives. And those videos have been sparse, haven't they? They've been sparse. But I'm trying to get back into the routine, and I want to feel that pressure. I want to feel that hairy, scary, because I don't feel it too much anymore, right? You know, it used to be an everyday thing where I'd wake up in the morning and life was a grind, and what's going to hit me today, and who's going to say what, and what's going to happen. What am I going to mess up on, and what catastrophe is going to fall into my lap? That was every day. And when I say that was every day for decades, right? So grateful that it's not an everyday occurrence anymore. And that's the amazing thing. But I test those waters, right? Sorry. I had to eat something really quick because I never ate anything today because I was so involved with my video editing, right? I was so involved with my video editing that I just let everything slide, and I stopped a couple of times in that frustration of editing video or not getting things right or not knowing what I'm doing, that I actually was frustrated with myself, and I had to stop for a second, and I had to say, Cindy, and I what I just explained to you guys, like, it was different problems that I was having with my video today. The problems that I had with the video I uploaded a couple of days ago were different problems. I didn't have those problems because I failed, right? Those problems were failures, and I learned from those problems, and I didn't make those same mistakes, right? But I made different mistakes only because I wanted nicer resolution for the videos, because I wanted, right? I had the capability, right? I filmed it that way. So I should be able to edit that way. And so I put in that extra effort. And, when I saw my video was going to take 2 hours to process, to render, that's okay. That's okay. It takes 2 hours. I've got some laundry to do, right? I've got some laundry to do, clean my house, get some things done, get some lessons in, right? Work on the thumbnail. And I did those things, but periodically I would look up to my editing, my video rendering, and the time elapse was getting longer and longer and longer. And the next thing you know, it looked like my video was going to take 9 hours to process, to render. I started shortly after I woke up this morning because I wanted to have the video up and ready for you guys by, I don't know, 10 or 11 o'clock this morning at the latest. Ended up being 6 o'clock in the evening, right? We're going to talk about the holidays, right? Let's just finish this because this is important, right? Because for lots of us, when we have problems, when we have struggles, when we get into projects, right? That in that frustration, in those struggles that we have, right? Those struggles, when things aren't working out for us, right? We have, as humans, we have that tendency to give up. Giving up is hardly in my vocabulary. I'm not going to say it's not in my vocabulary, right? I wasn't going to give up today, but there are things that we have to, right, recognize that no matter how much effort we put into it, it might not come out the way that we hope it will, right? I'm not just talking about the video, I'm talking about anything that we put our time, effort, or passion into. And it can be disheartening when it doesn't work out the way you hope it will, or you wish it will, or wish it will, right? So this is where I want to go back into that idea. It's in the practicing that we get better. It's in the failures, in our everyday failures, whether we're failing to pick up after ourselves, right? If we're failing in doing well, our uh, what happens when we hurt ourselves, like we break our own physiotherapy. There we go. Right, when we disappoint ourselves in not doing the physiotherapy that we're supposed to do and healing ourselves, right? When we give ourselves little chores to do the next day and then we wake up and we go, oh, we can do it tomorrow. I don't feel like doing it today, right? When we let ourselves down that way. As long as we don't give up, it's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to be disappointed in ourselves, right? Because these are the lessons. And as we practice and as we fail, right, we'll end up having to practice less and we'll find that we're failing less too. And so I find that a little bit of just pushing against that frustration a little bit, right? Maybe sometimes I have to show up as the cheerleader. Oh, Cindy, you can do it, right? Smarten up, right? You can do this. Just stick with it. And that's the idea. You just have to stick with it. You just have to stick with it because you came up with that idea for a reason. And no matter what it is, right? And then that frustration, you go, oh my goodness, I just can't just can't take it anymore. Forget this, right? This is Cindy to say, don't forget that. Don't give up, right? Keep trying, keep pushing against it because it's only in our failures that we get to be experts in what we do, right? It's only in our failures that we can realize that we can pull ourselves up, right? We can get off our knees. We can get off the couch, right? We can get out of bed, right? We can make some kind of movement. Now, Nancy's not here, but I'm going to use Nancy as an example because I've never met, and this is the truth, I have never met anybody in my entire life who takes hits like Nancy, right? That these ideas and these these um these ideas and these thoughts that we have that life is over. It can't get any worse than this. Well, it can, right? It can get worse. I was just talking to one of my area managers and I was saying, like, lots of times if you just stay on top of stuff, we don't fall behind in stuff. And it's the same idea in the failures, right? Because if you fail, you could give up and then just not give it a try. But if you fail, pull yourself up and just try again, right? Eventually, you'll get it right. And the feeling you have afterwards, oh my goodness, that feeling when I finally got the video up, I won't be making those mistakes again. And they were simple. They were pretty they were pretty simple mistakes. I just saved them to a wrong file that didn't have enough space, right? I had been at it for so long on the same screen that the screen needed to be refreshed, right? These are things that are solvable, but I didn't understand at the time. It was just pure frustration of, "Ugh." Okay, you guys, I am home. I had the most amazing, amazing trip. Hello, Melvin. Hello, Kathy. Hello, Andrew. Hello, Owen. Right? So happy you guys came in and hung out with me tonight. Oh my goodness. Right? But I'm happy to be back at this kind of grind. It makes me happy. It makes me feel like this part of the community, right? YouTube community. I love YouTube. I've been with YouTube since 2014. And even though we've been doing lives for the longest time, it hasn't always been that way, right? I've always, um, uh, what is it? It's not pursued, but moved towards being an adventure of a special kind, right? A special kind, a kind where we can mush together all those things that are important to me. I don't know. It's kind of like a vlogger, isn't it? Because vloggers do that. Vloggers, they share their lives. They share what they're good at. They share, right? They're YouTubers themselves. So YouTube is a job all in itself, right? It's just not a matter of filming, but it's editing and it's marketing and it's promoting, well, marketing and promoting the same thing, right? But it's pushing yourself beyond your capabilities in the moment, right? Because my capabilities were expanded today 100%. Well, you guys, on Sunday, or sorry, on Wednesday morning, I woke up. I was ready to go at 9 o'clock in the morning and pick up my vehicle. About 10 minutes after 9 in the morning, the rental company phoned me and said, "We have to give you some bad news. We don't have your vehicle for you." What? I'm supposed to be on the road in an hour. What do you mean you don't have a vehicle for me? Well, we had some conversations and a couple of back and forths, right? Didn't seem like we could resolve, right? Because I really had my heart set on the Jeep, right? It was part of my goals. It's part of me showing the evidence of what you can do when you put your mind to it, right? What you can do when you actually, right, make a choice or make a decision and you work towards that. And that whole part of what I wanted to contribute in my vacation, well, that was being dashed in the moment. I knew I'd be able to get a vehicle. I'd just go to a different car rental place and get a different vehicle, but it wouldn't have been the vehicle that I wanted, right? I did everything. I pulled all the tricks out of the book, right? In a way, sensible way, right? Not in a way to just make sure I get my truck, because I did everything I could to see how could we resolve this, how can we get my truck. And there were a few back and forths, a few phone calls, and I guess they figured out that, right, you might as well just clean up the truck real fast and get it ready for her. And that's exactly what they did. The truck came in, they did a spick and span, super duper, real quick cleanup of it, right? I was there within an hour. I got a phone call saying, "Come and get your truck." I got my truck, and then my sister says, "Cindy, do you want to go thrifting?" I go, "And I'm supposed to be on the road." What do you mean, do I want to go thrifting? Okay, let's go thrifting. So we only went to a couple of, or no, we went to three thrift stores, and for about a total of maybe an hour or so. And I told her, I says, I gotta leave. I have to leave now, right? I gotta pack the truck up. I want to be at my campsite. I got to get to my campsite before the ranger station closes. So we said our goodbyes, and I came home and I packed the truck. Oh, I forgot. I told my sister to take my house keys. And I said, I have to leave. I've got to be on the road. I says, I have to leave. And I left her in one of the thrift stores. And when I got home with the truck, I realized that my keys were in my sister's purse. So I had to wait another hour while she finished up what she was doing. And she came and dropped the keys off to me. Then I packed the truck and went and grabbed my coffee. And I was on the road. The Jeep ran beautifully, you guys. It was such a great car to drive, a truck to drive, and I'm so glad I persevered. In the end, I didn't see a possibility because they made it clear to me they didn't know what else they could do besides to give me the best vehicle on their lot, and I still wasn't happy with that, right? I said I'll just go to my own car dealership, right? My own car rental, and we'll get something that'll do the trick. And they called me right away. They didn't want to lose the sale, right? So we got your truck for you. I was so happy. And I was proud of myself at the same time. I would have liked things to go all smoothly, just like today, right? I would have liked it all to be without any kinks, without any hiccups, right? But that's not how life is. And I think all of us here understand that. But it's in our choices in the moment. It's in that little bit of forward thinking of possibilities. It's about never giving up, finding another way, right? And it is in that adapt and conquer and in that overcoming that we can find those most wonderful feelings of all. And that is the pride. And I'm very proud. I got the video up. It was difficult, right? But I got it up. And I'm here right now, right? I'm still talking about it. So you can tell I still haven't come down from it. But that's what you do. You get yourself to that state, right? Resolve the issue, then you bring yourself back down, right? Then you bring yourself back down. And that idea, right? That's a good sign when you're frazzled, because when you're frazzling, that's change. You're doing something, right? You're right. That's what that is. If there's no frazzle, wow, that's kind of a, I don't know. It's not a couch and a remote control kind of feeling. But if you were on the couch with the remote control, that would be a feeling that, well, that we would search out for, right? Because who likes that discomfort? Nobody likes that discomfort. Nobody likes to fail in what they're doing, number one. And especially when I'm such a yapper. Oh, I'll get that video up today, you guys. Hey, you can trust me. I'm on it. Right? And then that's the thing, because you give your word, right? And I gave my word and I broke my word. But then that's okay, I have to say to myself, right? Because I didn't break my word with intent. I didn't break my word by giving up. My word got broken because of the situation, because I failed in that, right? And like I said, it's okay to fail because we learn the most magnificent lessons in our failures, right? 100%. It's like taking a driving test. One of the men that I work with, he was all upset. He failed his driver test. I says, that's okay. Why are you sweating that? You're going to get to take your test again in 2 weeks, right? You got to have that experience. So the next time you take it, you're going to be a whole lot more comfortable because you're going to know what to expect, and guaranteed you're not going to make that mistake again. Why? Because we learn from our mistakes. Mistakes can be costly. If you're a company, it could cost the company, right? Right? If it's your job, well, it could lose your job from making mistakes, right? What if somebody gets hurt emotionally or physically, right? None of that happened, right? It was a failure. And the video got uploaded anyway. I came home one day early from my vacation because I ran out of money. In whole truth, I ran out of money, but that's okay because I gave everything to each one of those days that I did have on the road. And grateful that I well, maybe I'm not grateful that I cut it one day short, but when I was coming home, when I had to leave to come back to Winnipeg, the two highways where they conjoined to come back to Winnipeg, the Trans Canada Highway and the highway number 11, they have an intersection, and there was a terrible accident there. It must, I don't know anything about well, I do know a little bit. A couple of people died, and a couple of people ended up in the hospital, and it was between a big semi truck and a passenger vehicle, and the road was shut down for over 24 hours. And in those 24 hours, while I was waiting to get back onto the highway, right, sending out good wishes, right, to anybody, to the families of the injured and the people who passed away, to the people who were in the lineup, right? They were there. Some people were there for 24 hours waiting to get through, um, back onto the highway to get home. People who had possibly appointments. What about all those semis? Because most of the vehicles in that line were big trucks, right? Transport trucks. They have deadlines to meet, and they are penalized. And companies don't care what the reasons are. They only want the guarantee that you're going to get the product to its destination when you say you will. And so, right, there was a lot of frustration there. Everybody has frustration. Everybody has stress. Everybody feels like they fail themselves and they fail others, right? But we don't give ourselves credit, right? Not enough at the very least for what we do get right, right? For what we do get right. I'm just watching the comments here, you guys. Okay, I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. I've been at it since 8 o'clock this morning, and I didn't get anything done. And that was part of the frustration for myself because I waste time in my life, right? Just like anybody else wastes time. But in the monotony of waiting, I'm not patient enough, right? That patience has been something that has been a nemesis for me for over a well, for my entire life, right? For my entire life. And I have been a lot better at practicing the craft of patience. But to get these lessons in realizing that I don't like to waste time. Like there could have been things I could have done while waiting, but I was so anxious about what other kind of problems were going to arise around this that I ended up doing nothing except be with my video as I'm editing and as I'm rendering it and stuff. And for me, right, that is wasteful. That's a lot of hours that are put into something wonderful, right? Like it's going to be enjoyable. It's content for my channel. It's still something I created and something that I'm proud of. But again, I have to go back into that idea of Cindy, right? It was only a fail. And you've taken those lessons, that you need those failures, because those failures are the building blocks of success. Does that sound very entrepreneurship? It does, because it is something that entrepreneurs realize, and it is something that, because we do need that little bit of encouragement to say, oh, you can do this. Remember the cheerleader, right, like I need to see that evidence for myself that it can be done. Getting my video done is the evidence that I can do that, right, that I can get it done. Also, the adventure, that vacation that I created for myself, right? I work part time at Goodwill, right? People out there that say they can't afford to do trips, they can't afford to do these nice things for themselves. Lots of nice things that we can do for ourselves don't cost anything, do they, Andrew? And his little libraries, right? Right? And you enjoy them so much. It doesn't cost me anything to learn to edit my videos. I've got the program. I just don't have the proper experience yet with that program, right? And it's really not much different than the Premiere Pro, but because it's so easy for me to go live, right? This is easy, and this is 100% genuine, because I don't have the camera in my face, right? It's not right, because I'm trying to think how to explain it to me. The camera is not a person. Eventually, it will be the person when the video is edited and rendered. But when you're taking the video, it's just you and the camera, right? So I have to use my imagination. I have to think of Andrew. I have to think of Kathy and Owen and Melvin, right? I have to think of you in order to be able to be present. Does that make sense? Um, so that I can feel genuine, so I can hold myself accountable to be genuine, because in seeing the camera, just the camera, that's just media, right? That's just technology. That's me in the work that I'm doing in the creation of the video. And so going live for me is so easy, because it's so in the moment. And once you say something, once you do something, right, it's immediate. It's immediate. And the video is not immediate. And even though I'm having a genuine moment in filming the video, it's also a creation, right? So when I go in to edit the video, I'm putting a story together. I'm putting a message together, right? I have an idea of the message that I want to get across, and whether or not I do a good job at it or not, once the video is filmed, it doesn't matter. So if I fail in that, that's okay, because I'll take the feedback, I'll look at my analytics, I'll see where, right, where I could have done better. And in that failure, in the next video, right? And you guys, let me know that when you see me put these explorers from this trip up, let me know if you can see a consistent getting better, right? I never said I was a master editor. I'm not even a master filmer, right? But I am a master at myself, and I am a master of myself, and I am a master at what I have mastered. And I have mastered so much since I started on these platforms, because there might have been a time that I would have, right? Oh, forget this. I give up. Because there was a time when I was the queen of giving up. That's years ago now, right? I'm still here. I might not be any better now than I was then, right? But maybe I am, right? Because now I'm not giving up. Now, right? I've always been an adapt to conquer and find a way. But now I have that understanding. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to fail, right? What is not okay is to not show up. What is not okay is, well, not showing up, right? Not showing up. I show up fresh like a loaf of bread. And if I'm not doing it live, right, then I'm going to do it with my adventure videos, and hopefully, right, moving forward now that I have, well, mastered lives. Now it's time to master videos. And that's what I'm here for. Nancy, I was talking about you, girlfriend, right? I was saying, we were talking about failures, Nancy, and I was using you as an example of somebody who is consistently battling the system, or dealing with a catastrophe, or failing to receive what you need in your everyday, day to day. And Nancy is a prime example of never give up. Nancy is a prime example of adapt and conquer. Nancy is definitely learn from your mistakes, right? And so I use Nancy quite a bit in my movement forward, because she's a great example of somebody who has, well, I'm not going to say the world against her, right? Because Nancy rules the world 100%. Because if you throw something at Nancy, Nancy's going to throw it back at you. And if you roll something along Nancy's path, Nancy's going to jump over that, right? Maybe not literally jump over it, but she will bite on into it like I do. Piece of raw meat with her, right, in her mouth, like a pit bull. And she will be her own cheerleader. She will be her own protector. She would be her own advocate, right? These are lessons I've learned off of Nancy. And maybe part of what I'm doing here on YouTube is in never giving up. Maybe that's directly because of what Nancy has shared with us in her own experiences, in her own lessons, right? Because, some of us have cozy lives, right? Anything you need, anything you want, right? You could slap a band-aid on it, or you could slap a few dollars on it, right? If you're a handyman, maybe you could pull out the toolbox and get to work. Maybe, right, with me, like I said, in what I'm doing in my movement forward, right, and creating the best human being I possibly can, in overcoming myself, not rejecting myself, but overcoming myself, overcoming those limitations that I'm quite aware that I have, right? But at the same time, I have limitations in other aspects of myself, and they get to learn by Nancy True, right? And that's a truth. Um, this has been a learning process for me, one 100%, and just as much as anybody else out there, right? I don't like to fail, but I'm willing to fail because if I fail and I get back up, if I fail, get back up and get back to it. If I fail, get back up, get back to it, and realize, right, what I need to realize, then I can't be a failure. I'm making that movement forward. I'm creating the best human being I possibly can, right? And this is what I think about. I think about my friends. I think about you guys, and right, you're the motivation, right? Not just you're the motivation. I understand that I am my own motivation because in the end, this is for me, right? In creating the best human being I possibly can, in creating the best possible life that I possibly can, right? To dazzle and amaze myself, to find some joy and contentment, right? To find my own community, right? To be proud of myself. I have to show up. I have to show up, right? I've attached myself to my channel. I've attached myself to my brand. I've attached myself to beliefs. And I've attached myself to you guys. How can that be a failure? Like it just can't. And we've all contributed to this channel, right? We've all contributed to my adventures, and I hope that my adventures I've been able, because it is my intent to make them your adventures, because I understand that not everybody can have these kind of adventures because we're all different. We all live different lives. We all live in different places. We all have different capabilities. We all have different handicaps. We all have different, right? We could just keep going on and on and on. Andrew's saying, Cindy, I'm thinking of another quote about how success is getting up one more time than you get knocked down. Now, that's really interesting because that reminds me of a quote, and it's by one of my favorites, and I just heard this quote, one more, just one more, right? Just try one more time. And this comes from Ed Milet, and it was something his father taught him, right? His father was an alcoholic. If you don't know Ed Milet, he's a thought leader. He's one of the biggest motivational speakers out on the circuit right now. And that idea of just one more came from his father, who was an alcoholic. And he asked his father, right, if he was going to ever drink again. He just said, one more, just one more day, right? And just not today. I'm not going to drink today. That's all I can guarantee, right? That I can say with all sureness, today I'm not going to drink, but I can't say that for tomorrow, right? So if I get knocked down tomorrow, I'm going to realize it and I'm just going to get right back up and I'm going to try again. I'm going to try, right? One more time. And if that time doesn't work, I'm going to try one more time, one more day, right? And I would have given, I would have had no idea how many copies of that video I would have had loading up my hard drive by the time I was done. But I wouldn't have given up. I would have figured it out. Has everybody seen my video? Nancy, did you see my video yet? I uploaded a video this evening. A sanctuary. Oh, a sanctuary city. Oh, where we bring immigrants in? Is that a sanctuary city? A city that I think Winnipeg is one of those cities, but we bring a lot of migrant workers, so I can understand them because they wouldn't be legal citizens, would they? Right? Because they're workers. But this province here, yeah, I think most provinces do, right? There are lots of jobs out there that that companies have a hard time filling, and we do bring in a lot of help. There's a job for everybody, but I get it in thinking that some jobs are beneath you, right? Because I was that person. I didn't want to go work in a secondhand store. I didn't. And the idea was that I wouldn't be there very long. It was just going to be a stepping stool till I could move on to something better. But this job turned out to be absolutely amazing, right? But these are jobs normally that are given, right? Especially with Goodwill. Our mission statement here in Canada with the Goodwill is we're supposed to be giving jobs to people with economic problems, social problems, right? Emotional problems, mental problems, right? That we're supposed to give them a step up. And I was that person that somebody gave a step up to. And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for that. But I do believe that in most people's minds, that would be a job that, oh, right? Like working at 7-Eleven. Like people talk about McDonald's, right? Oh, I'm not going to work for McDonald's. Are you kidding me? If you could work for McDonald's for 3 years, right? And not get fired and not quit, like how much experience could you bring to the table in another position? And I can guarantee you that a lot of companies who would see that job experience of McDonald's or 7-Eleven on the resume, you would get called in for an interview because employers know how difficult these jobs are, how specific they have to be, right? How we can't make any mistakes. Like, right? These are huge companies that don't leave a lot of leeway to allow for mistakes. It's unfortunate. I believe, even in my job, I tell people, go ahead, make mistakes. But if you're going to make mistakes, you better be asking lots of questions, right? Because it's in the asking of the questions that we learn, right? It's in the askings of the questions that somebody will come forward and show you how it's done, or explain to you how it's done, or show you where to go, right? Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Nancy. I don't have that kind of um what is the word that I'm looking for? Is it discrimination? Is it discrimination? Because it seems, though, right, that it's you can't take from, what's that saying? Take from Peter to pay Paul. Is that what we're talking about here? Right? They're taking from your benefits in order to take care of somebody else. We do that in our taxes. When I'm at work, I'm capable of holding a job. If you don't know Nancy, dear, Nancy is in a wheelchair, right? Um, she is supposed to be taken care of. Her rights are supposed to be taken care of. Her living conditions are supposed to be taken care of, even in her mobility. And we know the struggles that Nancy had in the past little while with her mobility. And it was very scary for her, right? Not being able to walk and not having a chair and being stuck in her bed with no income coming in, relying on the kindnesses of others. And maybe if we can see, sometimes it's the perspective, Nancy. Sometimes it's the perspective. And if you can look at Nancy, that, well, you should have been able to make the choice whether some of those benefits that you were making could go to people less less stable than you are, right? You should have a say in it. It is your funds, but at the same time, I'm a true believer in kindnesses, and I would hate to see what did you call it? A sanctuary city um, be wanting to do something kind, something good, something beneficial, something that would be um, so instrumental in saving people's lives, in all truth, that feeling of kindness, right, should be not being taken from other people's resources, right? It should be something that's given and not taken. Maybe that's what I'm trying to say, Nancy, right? That idea of taking from Peter to take care of Paul. Maybe that's not the right solution, but sometimes in that adapt and that conquer, and sometimes in that frantic of not knowing what to do, we make decisions, right? And those choices. Oh, I get it. I get that too, Nancy. I understand that too. But, you know, it's 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 that idea of one bad apple shouldn't spoil the whole batch, right? We shouldn't we shouldn't stereotype one person because somebody similar didn't follow etiquette, right? That didn't use good judgment or kindness in their movement. Yeah, so Nancy's talking about the immigrants and how they're coming into her city of Seattle, and they call these sanctuary cities. This is the first time I'm hearing this this term, right? But I'm thinking that Nancy uh, is feeling probably that right. She's been here all her life. She's an American, right? Americans are very patriotic. You don't mess with the patronage of an American, right? And to bring people in when you can't even take care of the people that you have, right? I wish there was something that I could do, but I think I'm almost in the same situation as you are there, Nancy, in when it comes to the resources. But things change all the time, right? Things change all the time. And maybe there'll come that point that you'll be able to make that choice, Nancy, to do a little kindness for somebody less fortunate. It's just unfortunate that they're um, resourcing. They're resourcing from citizens that are in need of those resources themselves. Yeah. Aw. Ah, yes, I've been watching what's been going on with New York. I've been watching for a couple of years now when I heard what they were doing in Brooklyn that they were releasing cats to deal with the rats and stuff and I'm going, "Rats? They're releasing cats into the city to take care of rats? What's going on with New York?" And so I started paying attention, but you could pay attention to any city, and that's the truth. You could pay attention to any city, and you'll see the same thing going on in a different city. The story might be told a little bit differently, but the story that's going on in Nancy City is a story that's going on in the Owen City and going on in my own city too, right? And that idea is to adapt to that, right? Sometimes, right? Nancy doesn't have the choice. The government made it for her. She's got to take that, right? She's got to take that. So, what is she going to do about it? Well, that's Nancy. Nancy can get her pen and paper out. She can write some of those magnificent letters. She can do research and source out other forms of possible assistance when it comes to financial aid coming into her world. But I'm sure Nancy's on it already. If anything comes available, I'm sure Nancy is already checking into it, right? But Nancy, I have confidence, right? Like just like every single problem that you've come up with, you'll find a solution. But I don't want you to lose your compassion to those less fortunate. Nancy, isn't that amazing? There are people that are less fortunate than you, right? Absorb that one. Absorb that one. You're not unfortunate, right? You are a masterpiece. I have to say in disguise because you would never realize you're magnificent, Nancy, just to see you or speak to you. But to know you, Nancy, oh my goodness, you'll be on top of it 100%. Oh, you watch Cash Jordan too. I like Cash Jordan. I watch all his videos, Andrew. I like I like Cash Jordan. He's he's growing in his brand too. And he's somebody who is actually looking out and making note and making it focus driven in his videos, his ideas and his opinions, right? He's concerned about New York too, you can tell. You haven't seen Cash Jordan, Owen? Oh, you should watch him. He's pretty good. He's like a real estate broker, and he just goes to empty apartments. He tells you how much the apartment costs, shows you all the features of the apartments. He finds some really, really neat places. Yeah, some really neat places. What? They drop homeless people off in Bloomingdale, Andrew? I heard somewhere, maybe it was Nancy who told me that they'll buy you a bus ticket to anywhere that you want to go as long as you never come back. I heard somebody tell me something like that. I couldn't believe it, but when I Googled it, it happened to be true. Nancy saying, I'm still not getting that chair I so desperately needed, so I'm glad my friend got me one, but I will be having a hearing on getting a new chair this winter sometime. That's amazing. Nancy, I thought you had the new chair already. I knew your friend sent you one, but I thought you were getting a second one that you were just gonna squirrel away until you needed it. Oh, that's so sad. Well, I have to say that I watched a video the other day. It's supposed to be positive video live today, but I watched a video a couple of days ago, and it was a news broadcast, and they were talking about the patients in the hospital, how the security, because they don't have beds, they're taking these people who are in the hospital and their belongings, and they're taking them outside the hospital, and they're leaving them on the corner. They're leaving them on the corner in their hospital clothing, right? These, for the most part, homeless people and stuff that are in the hospital. But when they have nowheres to go, oh my goodness, can you imagine if someone were to pass away? What kind of news broadcast would be happening at that point? Oh my goodness. Oh, so that was Nancy who told me that. And they're not allowed to come back. Oh my goodness. Right? Homeless. But what if their family was there? Right? Lots of homeless people stay in the same city as where their families live. They just don't, right, live with them, but they live in the same cities. But to imagine getting a bus ride to say, oh my goodness, I think I might like to go to New York. I want to go live in New York. And then they give you a bus ride to New York, right? And then your mother dies or your father dies in Seattle, and you can't even go back for a funeral. Well, I'm sure they would be able to. Oh, what's the Western State Hospital? Is that the name of the hospital, or is that a certain kind of hospital? Yeah, I'd be interested to know that. Nancy was saying here they release people from Western State without giving the Western State Hospital people a chance to do something to protect and warn the computer community. So I'm not quite sure. Warn the community. Are these criminals, or are these people with? Is this a psychiatric hospital that you're talking about, Nancy? Yeah, I'm a little confused on that one. Yeah, here in Winnipeg, well, one more month and that cold weather is going to set in. And last year we had so many homeless people on the streets. Uh, minus 40 Celsius, super, super cold. I don't even know how they survive in that kind of temperature, but they do, right? And they do. We were also very grateful that just before COVID hit, um, our mayor went to bat and received millions of dollars to help the homeless people in providing shelter for the homeless people. So we had those resources, so we were able to do a little bit with that. But when people are homeless, and there was some surveys and some research done on this, the homelessness is for the most part a choice. It's a choice, right? And of course there's going to be blowback because there are people that, right? But the thing is, they don't know there's a choice. They don't know that there's an option. They don't know that there are resources, right? Like Nancy would research all the possibilities and she would come up with something. But someone who's homeless doesn't even have a phone for the most part, right? And because they are looked at as trying to think of the word, as the meek, right? I'm going to say the meek, right? The unfortunate, that people don't want to be associated with that. And so people don't get to know that there is things that they can do, resources that they can find. And I'm a true believer that it's in our choices. I mean, wow, you put the heat to my butt, right? The world did. I almost ended up homeless myself. Just a few years ago, just before COVID. It was so scary, but you put that heat under my butt and not give me an option. I'm going to adapt and conquer. I am going to survive. I am going to find a way. And even though I was never giving up, it did seem hopeless at times, right? It did seem hopeless. Just like, right, that video I was doing today. Maybe it's the hopelessness, right? The hopelessness that gets us so discouraged and ready to jump ship with our lives, right? Maybe it is. Grateful for the lessons. I have to say that, right? To even recognize that it was okay for me to fail, that I wasn't a dum dum, right? There's lots of people out there who don't even know how to make a video. Me and Nancy do, though. Me and Nancy know how to do videos. Obama phones. Isn't that interesting, Andrew? And Obama's been gone for a while too, but what a great program that is. But the thing is, I don't know if you guys watched that show, Soft White Underbelly. It's very interesting characters. The gentleman who does their interviews, and their interviews with everyday people, homeless people, drug addicted people. They even had Rod Jeremy, if you guys know, he was a porn star in the 70s and 80s. But he does different interviews with really, really interesting, interesting people, right? Now, what was I going to say about soft white underbelly? That we get to understand that everybody has got problems, everybody has disabilities, but it has to be in our choices, right? It has to be in our choices to do a little bit better by ourselves. Oh, really? Andrew's saying he's um wants to watch one of the interviews with the man who was almost the victim of John Gacy. He was the clown killer, wasn't he? He was a serial killer, I think. And I think he dressed up as a clown, right? Represented himself as a good person when he wasn't. Yeah, serial killer. Yeah, but all kinds, right? All kinds of people. But what I was going to say about this show is there's this one repeating person that they bring on for interviews. He's a homeless man, but he's an addicted homeless man. He's also gay, and he goes by the name Rebecca, and and he gets phones all the time, right? He has the people who buy him phones all the time, and he just sells them, right? He just moves them along so he can get his drugs, right? Yeah, that's absolutely just crazy. But that's right. That's somebody's stage of evolution totally stunted, right? And you have to think like, what was his childhood like? What were his parents like? What were his grandparents like? Because we learn these things in our very earliest years. And the person that he became was out of the growth of what he was born into. And unfortunately, that's a bit of a fact, right? Oh, so he was the clown, eh? Yeah. No, I remember him. It was a big thing when they finally caught him because he did represent himself as a clown, as someone that you could trust your children with. We're having a strange conversation today. I wanted to come in and just talk about my vacation, but I guess we'll see the vacation in the videos that I upload. Um, I'm just wondering, in that idea that I came in and I offered up that story of my determination and my frustration and my failure, that we ended up um staying in that lower energy type conversation there. But as long as we're not just beefing about it, that we're actually, right, s- um stirring around ideas, having a conversation, right? Um, bringing up point of views, right? Talking about the resources that are available, the possibilities that we can put out there as solutions, right? Tell me, Nancy, I'm very, very curious as to why why that didn't happen, why you didn't become negative, because you're not a negative person. You're very self-reliant and self-protective, but you're not a negative person. 100%. I'm just turning my mouse here so my notifications are coming on, right? And that is true. And I think about that, and the reason I'm asking you that question, Nancy, is in my own experience, right? Because I also, well, most of you guys know, I was also abused growing up. I was also mishandled in my upbringing, and didn't quite have. Um, I did that. The idea of why I didn't grow up that way. I know I have very strong controlling, right? That I am stubborn, that possibly, right? I don't like that word, but narcissistic tendencies. I think a lot of the content that I delve into, that I take my lessons to, are directly meant for me to help dissipate some of those strong opinions, right? We'll call them opinions because no, it sounds a lot better than narcissistic ideas. But opinions being, they're not facts, they're perspectives of mine, right? And the idea with me is I am responsible for my own actions. I am responsible for my own thoughts, right? For my own understandings. But why didn't I turn out that way? Right? And I've heard it come across like, well, maybe you are sensitive. Maybe you're just too sensitive. And maybe a strict upbringing you mistook as abuse. No, I recognize abuse. You lay a hand in me in anger. That's abuse. I am highly attuned with intent. It is a gift. Unfortunately, I had to give to myself, right? Because I trusted and I went along with what anybody said to me, about me, right? I moved along with people's intentions just so that I could belong, just so that I felt like people cared, that maybe somebody loved me, that maybe somebody saw me or heard me, right? But it is, I keep getting distracted because I'm looking at these comments. They're so deep today. They're so deep, and I'm trying to touch on it my own way, and I'm trying to understand myself that way, because Nancy, right? Maybe it wasn't narcissism. Maybe it was that circumstances, right? It was the circumstances that couldn't be faulted, that they were mishaps and unexpected occurrences, right? And so Nancy didn't have a reason to become hardened. She did have a reason, though, to become hardened, because her life was difficult. But I think probably, well, I'm not going to say probably, but I'm hoping that probably I'm hoping, let's just say I'm hoping that it was through that optimistic attitude that you always had, that things would get better or you could overcome something, right? Or something would get better. But how do you think that you're going to grow bones in your legs? Like, that's not going to happen. But innovation, I mean, maybe some wire balls or bars, maybe some electronics behind your ears, right? That could motorize, and like things change all the time, and the possibilities, right? In my day, like, take me for a prime example. I got to have that experience of being a skinny person. I was 311 pounds, right? In the 50s, even, or in the 60s, or when I was born, or 100 years ago, people weren't having gastric bypasses. People weren't having operations in order to help them lose weight. But because of innovation, because the gastric bypass was created to assist people who have obesity issues, I was able to overcome somewhat a problem that I had all my life, right? But in that, I might have found resentment, right? I might not have found positivity. Oh, I don't think I would have found positivity. I don't think uh, I wouldn't have found the answers. I would have found comfortability. I would have found coping mechanisms. I'm I would have continued to cheerlead myself because I've always been a cheerleader for myself, right? But I don't know, Nancy, how you could have, right, gone through all that you have gone through. And if you have never heard Nancy's story before, oh my goodness, it is. Me and Nancy have been friends for a long time. I've interviewed Nancy on my Instagram. A few of you have been on my Instagram and seen Nancy's interview, so you know a part of her story, but I don't know how you hardened, right? I would love to know, if you know, Nancy, what it was that made it so that you didn't harden, right? I think for myself, it was, it's hard to even say it, but there was a balance to that craziness of growing up for me. You know, I was abused by my mother, but my father was the total opposite of my mother. And because I look for that shelter, because I look for that the shade of the branches of his tree, because I looked for that comfort, because I looked for his understanding, and I looked for his insight, that maybe that's what saved me, right? I'm quite certain that it was, because when I recognize the kindnesses, when I recognize characters like my father, right? And then to realize who these characters are, right? It makes me and helps me to understand that, you know what? My father was meant for something more. And I'm only sitting here where I am right now because he got as far as he did in his movement, right? And I only am sitting here right now because of the shade of the branches of his tree, because of his insights, because of his lessons, and because of his love. But you didn't even have that, Nancy, right? How can you not harden without that love? You must have had love. You had your grandmother's love. Isn't that amazing that you get that kind of insight? These kind of thoughts never even crossed my mind. It was like there was like a big wall that they weren't even able to penetrate in any kind of way. But it's funny that you say that, Nancy, because I was at my sister's house. Well, it was a few weeks ago. I was at my sister's house. It was my niece's graduation. Remember, my niece graduated with a degree in sociology, and she got a great job. You guys, she's now working for the Red Cross. Did I tell you guys that? My niece got a job. She's working for Red Cross. I'm so proud of her. But I went to visit my sister, and my niece and my sister came down. They live in the same building, so they came down to my sister's building so we could all spend a few minutes together. And my niece had just come back from New York City herself. She was on a trip with her friends, and we started talking about money. And we all recognize that my niece is, right, she takes after my sister Tracy, but my niece is very, very good with money. She's good at budgeting, good at taking care of her credit cards, good at in investing in herself, and she's living a good life for herself. She's enjoying her life for herself, and she has um, issues too, right? And And yet she's moving forward. And so I said to her, I said, it's really amazing that you're so good with your money, that you learn to budget. I never learned that. My parents never taught me anything about finances. I wasn't paying attention in school. And I was in family studies. Right? That stuff didn't interest me. My choice, right? I take full responsibility for that. But my sisters and my niece, my sister said, oh, yeah, Ashley is so good with money. She's so good with budgeting. She's going to do so. And we could all see that she's going to do good that way. And so I asked her, why? How come your whole family, right? Besides my sister Tracy, she's a millionaire, but all my other sisters, we're all working for the man, right? We're all struggling week to week, month to month. And I said to her, how did you learn these skills? And she said to me exactly what you said, Nancy, that she used us as an example, right? She saw how we struggled in our lives, and she made that choice that she wasn't going to struggle the way that we did, and she made the choices to put that work in for herself. And I went, oh my goodness, that's just absolutely amazing. How come I couldn't learn these lessons when I was her age, right? These weren't even thoughts in my mind. I was getting lessons. Well, believe me, I was getting lessons. Not those kind of lessons, but I was getting lessons, and lots of those lessons too served me well and serve me well now, right? But they served well in the moment, right? But lots of those lessons I could have done without, and some of those lessons I could have delved a little bit deeper, 100%. Maybe it was the field trip to a jail and a prison that the school took us to. What I saw inside there, Cindy, was enough to scare the bejeepers out of you. Isn't that amazing? It's kind of like that tough love, right? And sending your kid to jail and having them interact with the other prisoners and stuff, and giving them a true taste of what life was going to be if you didn't smarten up and get your poop together. Ah, Nancy, yes. Yeah, choices, very new to me, right? Self parenting, I had no idea, right? I was parented. My parents parented me. I was done. When I grew up, I was parented. Right? I didn't realize I wasn't parented well. I just thought, well, I knew I came from a dynamic family, but I could see all families were dynamic, right? And I knew and I could see the differences in my family. And I avoided the pain, right? And I moved towards the pleasure just like everybody else did, right? But I wasn't interested in maybe that's what it is, because maybe I didn't feel that there was any hope for myself. Could that have been that? I don't like that word, hope, optimism, that there was no optimism that my life was going to get any better, that I had kind of accepted my place and my role in life. And it all changed. It all changed when I came to YouTube, when I actually had to start learning, right? And you start with learning to edit, right? You start with learning to go live. You start with learning to do thumbnails, and then you learn the analytics, right? Then you learn that it's what you bring from the inside to your brand, because yeah, it has to be genuine, because you're not going to gain anybody who's going to want to hang out with you unless you're genuine. And so you pick up more lessons along the way. And I got so involved in it and so into it that it evolved into something that helped to relieve my pain, right? That helped me, right? Because the YouTube channel took all my focus, it took all my time, it took all my resources. And what was taking all my time, right? All my effort and all my resources before YouTube? Well, it was the video lottery terminals, wasn't it? It was the gambling. It was immersing myself in those things that help to take me away from those thoughts of, well, what we were talking about today, the topic, failing, right? Oh my goodness, that lesson that I got in editing video today is in that realization you're only a failure if you choose to be a failure. If you choose not to take the lessons, right? If you choose not to have the conversation, if you choose not to move towards it, right? If you choose not to fail, to give up first, that's the only way that you can fail. And here I was thinking I was a complete failure. Why? Because somebody told me I was. And after a while, after hearing it so many times, that I didn't need anybody else to tell me I was a failure. I come to realize I was a failure myself. And it was only starting my YouTube channel, right? That we start to make that movement. And I got those lessons that I needed, right? To say, hey, Sydney, you're not a loser. You're not a failure. You're a good person, right? I was always a good person, and I never gave myself credit for who I surrounded myself, and yet I was still myself, right? And I never gave myself credit for that. I only gave myself heck for not being like those people that I had surrounded myself with. And believe me, I've had some very dynamic, crazy, beautiful, loving characters. And knowing what I know now, right? It was probably a good thing that I was surrounding myself with them because they needed me as much as I needed them, right? And if I hadn't thought that way of myself, I would have been uh, probably by myself, right? But I chose different, right? And that was the human thing to do. And I'm glad that I did that. And I'm glad I met these amazing characters. I'm glad I met every single one of you. Each one of you added something to me, added something to my brand, just like what we said at the beginning of this live, right? That now I show up and it's just natural. I'm going to show up. You guys can trust I'm going to show up. Might be a few minutes late, but I'm going to show up. You can count on that. Why? Because I show up for myself. And that feeling of not showing up is not a feeling that I can accept as a part of my life anymore. I just can't, right? So, late lessons for me. Nancy, you got it your whole life. So you've been on this journey your entire life, and I get to brag. Ooh, 2014, right? But maybe, right? It's been longer than that. Maybe it's been a process. Maybe I just didn't wake up to these conversations or have these conversations or have these experiences because, right, I would analyze, I would bite onto it like a piece of raw meat, like a pit bull, and not let go of it until I had that answer. And once I had that answer, right, that it might not have been the right time for me to take off, right? Start my YouTube channel. And so what happens? Whoever, whatever, gives me a gambling addiction to just keep me tied up in my limiting beliefs, right? Give me a few more experiences to help me understand, to help me resolve in myself. And like I said, I delve into a lot of personality disorders. I do. And, in the networks that I follow, people are giving a lot of themselves. They're giving more of themselves than what they have or what they're capable of. And it causes them to talk to themselves like I talked to myself this afternoon when I was editing my video. And I'd like to think that I had a handle on that, right? Maybe I do now, and having that conversation, right? Understanding that it is okay to fail. It is okay to make mistakes. If you recognize it and you get up, brush your legs off, and just get right back at it and try again. And if you fail, right, don't quit. Get up, brush your legs off, try again. That eventually will get things right. So, Nancy, right? You started a lot earlier than me, but hopefully I'm not too far behind you, dear, right? Hopefully I'm not too far behind you. You guys, we're running late today. It's been a strange conversation tonight. Very strange, but I hopefully it's helpful. It's given me some food for thought. This topic of failure, how I perceived in failure, and how I can look at my failures in my life and realize I couldn't have done anything but fail because I just didn't have the lesson at the time. And it was only in my choices, right? In taking a lesson and in completing the lessons and having a realization that possibly another lesson might come across my path because I got that one now. And it was only in that succession, in that repetitiveness of doing that, that I got myself to this point right now where I can end my live show, right? I can end my live show and know that I can come back tomorrow to my content, put together another adventure video, and next time I'm going to learn from my mistakes, learn from my failures, and I'm going to be better. And the video is going to be better, right? Okay, you guys. I think that's going to be it tonight. I have been babbling, like truly, I have just been babbling tonight, but I am exhausted. And that exhaustion is from frustration, right? It's not from anything I did. I went for a walk to the store. That was the extent of other than editing the video and other than doing my live tonight. That was the only energy that I dispersed, and yet I'm exhausted. So that's just evidence in itself on how important it is to keep that positivity. And actually, just what the story that Nancy told us about how she has always been positive, even after being abused her entire life, that she still has that magnificent positive attitude, right? Keep it up. Don't worry too much about the immigrants, right? Right? You'll find your resources, but we have to find our resources without being, what's the word? Without denying anybody else's right to find a little bit of resource themselves. Because I have been denied some of my lessons. I do believe that because of the state of mind that I was in, that those lessons just couldn't reach me, right? And now that I'm a little bit open, right? Now that I'm a little bit more understanding and more compassionate to me and more compassionate to others, right? I could see the evidence. I could see exactly where I made my mistakes. And I could see, right, that where I got it wrong, that isn't there anymore. And so maybe, right, in moving forward, I'm not going to have to deal with those problems anymore. But that's only from this afternoon because I was triggered this afternoon in that crazy editing. You guys have a great night. We'll see each other tomorrow. We're going to pick a word tomorrow, you guys. I'm so excited to see what the next word is going to be. And we're going to talk about it all week on What's My Good Cheer. So if you can pop in tomorrow, would love to have you. If not, pop in when you have a free minute, put your feet up, right? Okay, you guys. Have a good night. We'll see each other tomorrow. Bye bye.